Let's take you from the northwest now to KZN, where the Premier, Nomusa Dube-Ncube, is holding her first public engagement with key stakeholders today. Dube-Ncube is meeting with faith-based organizations as she seeks their endorsement and their support. Now, a number of other engagements are planned for the day and for the period, really. And we've got our reporter, Letiwe Mdluli, who's covering that story now and joins us now. Earlier, when we caught up, Letiwe Mdluli, we were awaiting the arrival of the Premier, enjoying some of the praises that were being sung by congregates at the church there where you are. What is the update?
Well, Rafiwa, I do have the Premier with me at the moment, and I want to bring her in and talk to her about why we are here specifically. Premier, thank you so much for joining us at ANC, and good morning. Take us through why you're here. Exactly, the Umsunduzi region, why did you pick this first place to have your first engagement?
Well, first of all, I'm grateful for the invitation. I was invited by the church, and the invitation happened even before I was the Premier, but it was because of the significance that Umsunduzi as a district, but also the Mgungundlovu is playing in the province, but also the many social ills that we've seen in around Mgungundlovu. It meant that we really needed to get closer to the church so that the church can play their role, in healing the lives, but also in ensuring that particularly this church has got a lot of young people, and it is our wish that young people really get to come close to the church so that even their consciousness, they do not do, wrong things, but also they help in bringing more young people towards the church. It is really our prayer and our wish that with so many social ills that we see, through, the active role that the church could play, we could see a lot of those being addressed.
Now, Premier, the Umsunduzi region is quite a volatile place, especially the Umsunduzi municipality. It's been under administration for several years. You have taken over as the new Premier. What is it that you're going to be doing differently for this region and for this municipality? It's been under administration for several years now.
Well, I think we really need to work hard in turning things around in Umsunduzi. I always believe that it is not fair that sometimes we put people under these conditions in Umsunduzi, because the fact that they're under administration means that the administration is not able to conduct its own business, but it also means it's failing on its power, constitutional power to deliver the services to the people. So it's really going to be becoming important for us to give the relevant support, but also to see what is it that is making Umsunduzi to be in this situation. And once we understand greatly, we also need to bring in various role players to come play their role in building Umsunduzi.
And in terms of municipalities as a whole in the province, only 7 municipalities have received clean audits. And it's quite shocking, out of the over 30 municipalities that we have, that only 7 have received these clean audits. And when we look at municipalities and communities as a whole, there's been a lot of service delivery protests because they are saying that they are not receiving the services that they need from their municipalities. What is your take on this, and what are you going to be doing?
Well, my take is that we need to work hard in ensuring that we have clean governance in municipalities. It saddened me that we've regressed. I mean, when I was still at COCTA as in the MEC there, we were at the stage where we had about 37 municipalities that had, books that with very few issues, and it's been a serious regression where we are now. And I do believe that without clean governance, there can never be service delivery to our communities, and the effectiveness as well that we need to be looking at. That even if government is delivering services, are we effective? Are we spending every cent, the way it's supposed to be spent? Is there value for money? Because in many instances, if you look at years, how much we've been spending as government, or how much is budgeted every year, and you take 5 years of that, you can imagine how much money. But if you want to see what then has happened, tangible, you would see that honestly, there is something where we need to change our service delivery model.
And of course, you are going to be meeting more faith-based communities. What is the strategy there? How are you willing, or how are you going to be bringing them in trying to fight all these things that you're trying to fight in the province?
Well, we do believe that the church has got a big role, a huge role that they can play within the communities. We've seen a number of churches, providing, feeding schemes to communities. We've seen a lot of churches giving counseling to many families, but also we've seen a lot of churches also being involved in service delivery. There's quite a number of churches, even during the floods, that were involved with the mopping up operations, that even now they're still involved in assisting communities. So we do believe that with the numbers that the churches have, but also with the leadership in the churches, there is a really big role that we can play, but also joining with government to also say, what is it that government can do better? I do believe that when we're going to be meeting with various church leaders, our message is going to be, we need the church in our lives. We need the church in our communities. We need the church in really making sure that the lives of our communities are improved.
In terms of recovery of the province, we've heard government promising that they are trying to recover the economy of the province and also help those that do not have jobs. You've also said that you're willing to make your focus employment in the province. But exactly, it doesn't seem like there is a plan, Premier. What are we going to be doing as a province, especially you now as a Premier? What is the plan there?
Well, the plan is to be practical. I believe that, as government, we should stop talking. We should stop talking a lot and do more. There are a lot of programs that are there, but because of the government inefficiency, because of the government lack of agency sometimes, things are not happening. And I already know what are the sectors that we really need to push for us to recover, but also to reconstruct our economy. Our province is a rural area. It's got a lot of rural areas, but also very strong in our province on tourism. And we know that during COVID, our tourism was really battered flat out. And we need to recover that industry, because if you see how much that industry is bringing in terms of creating jobs, you can imagine if we could inject, a lot of energy in that, we could see a number of jobs being created. But also we used to have even programs in KZN that used to be called One Home, One Garden. We used to have a lot of programs that we were doing with various industries in the private sector, such as the SA breweries, Unilever and others, where people were participating in plowing and producing for those, industries. And I do believe that we need to look at that and support, communities that will be providing those services to those private sector companies.
And lastly, Premier, there's been a lot of talk about unity, especially within the ruling party here in the province. But we don't see much of that unity happening. We've seen some factions, some of them taking the former president's side and some of them taking the current president's side. Where do you stand on this?
Well, I do not believe that there has to be any separation when it comes to that. Sometimes people do not believe that you can support all our leaders and be okay with it. There's no need for us to divide each other according to groups. There's no need for us to separate our leaders. We've got former presidents that have been there before, and we're still supporting them. Even the current president, he needs to be supported the same. Even President Zuma, he needs to be given, the same respect and the same support that is being provided to all the president. So I do not believe that. I think we need to teach each other that this is not how the organization works. We do not work as an organization in terms of groupings, but we would work and be stronger if we work together and united in our purpose.
Thank you so much, Premier.
Thank you very much.
So, Rafiwa, that is the Premier of KZN, Nomusa Dube, just basically taking us through what they're going to be doing today and also sharing some of the very heated topics when it comes to the factions within the province here in KwaZulu-Natal. She is saying that they're trying to unify the party so that they can bring service delivery, the much needed service delivery in the province. I also asked about the failing municipalities. Only 7 municipalities in the province have received clean audits this year, which paints a really bleak picture for the residents of KwaZulu-Natal. She is saying that they're going to be working very hard to try and unify these municipalities and work together with them. There's over 30 municipalities here in KwaZulu-Natal, so we will await and see the work that this new provincial executive does provide to the people of KwaZulu-Natal moving forward.
Letiwe Mdluli, reporter there in KZN, just had a conversation with the Premier, newly elected Premier of KZN.